So, just for sticks, earlier in the week, I was thinking about the announcement tonight, and I sent out a message to my tweeps, my followers on Twitter, and I just asked them. I said, "What do you think the announcement's going to be?" They're so funny. You're going to record an album with UFO Phil. Somebody wrote, no, but I'm open to that. You're outing me as a reptoid, writes R. Stevens. I wasn't going to do that, but hey, y'all, R. Stevens on Twitter is a reptoid. Jackula the Vampire Dog hits #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Wouldn't that be nice? You found Major Ed Dames's pot of Art Bell gold. No. You are D.B. Cooper. Nope, although that would be fun. You were on the grassy knoll. You were Bigfoot in the Patterson movie. It'd take two of me to be the Bigfoot in the Patterson movie. You'll be doing Saturday nights from George's new Hawaii studio. That sounds like a good time. You found Elvis alive and well and living in the basement of your church in Minnesota. You'll be hosting the Christmas Eve show. Actually, yes, I will be doing that. Coming up Christmas Eve, we will be live on Coast to Coast, and I will be hosting that. And you will be doing the prediction shows this year, Part 1 and Part 2, New Year's the day before, New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Eve. Yes, those are both accurate predictions and good guesses. But no, not what this is about. I'll be as quick as I can here, but I just wanted to establish that I think this is a positive thing. And I think I'm pretty much on the record as having said for a long time that within every yes, there is a no, and vice versa. That we say yes to apple pie, but we're also saying no to cake or to cobbler or whatever. We don't vocalize it, by listing the choices to which we're saying no. It's just, it's easy not to be mindful of all the things that we're saying no to, but it's true. We are saying no to things even if we don't articulate it. Another way of looking at that is that by saying yes to dessert, we're also saying no to culinary boredom, or saying no to the question, is this the day I'm going to start that new diet? And it's kind of the same thing with the whole good news, bad news paradigm. A few weeks ago, my oldest son had an awesome college swim meet, which was good news for him, his team, and his parents. But his best event times were bad news for somebody else that was in the pool, the opposing team, and those boys' parents, right? And vice versa when it doesn't go his way. And it's with that in mind that I need to pass along some good news, bad news tonight on Coast to Coast. Due to causes that are both natural and not, it has become increasingly more difficult for me to hear. A condition which started somewhat mildly in the fall of 2009, but has gotten worse since 2010. My hearing problems might have come from decades of wearing headphones for hours and hours every single day. It might be hereditary. It might be from an experimental form of an antibiotic that I was once prescribed a couple years ago that gave me a banging headache and ringing in my ears, or a combination of all three. Really don't know. Regardless of the cause, I'm here tonight to say that I am losing my hearing somewhat dramatically, and that my tinnitus continues to get worse. So some people experience hearing loss, and some people develop tinnitus, a noticeable ringing or buzzing in the ears, but not everybody gets both, and this is my case. A few months ago, new hearing tests revealed that my loss is now in the moderate to severe category and getting worse. Compounding that, I have what is termed grade 5 tinnitus. That is, my ringing buzz never stops. It cannot be masked. Quiet activities are subject to disruption, and sleeping patterns are completely disturbed. As if, either of those things are not bad enough alone. Adding to the difficulty of experiencing hearing loss and tinnitus at this level together is that I experience these low-grade headaches from the mental and physical stress, and the low-grade headaches tend to last weeks. It's really hard. I can actually illustrate for you a little bit, and hang on, Lauren, I'm coming, a little bit about tinnitus, and I only do this for you because it's radio, and actually, because of Coast to Coast, I happen to have this weird app in my phone. Remember a couple years ago, we had a guy on who wrote a book called Get High Now Without Drugs. And it was both an app and then also a book about the things that you can do to kind of, shift your mind around for relaxation or to create kind of altered states just using visual tricks and auditory tricks. And so there was this app that came along with it, and I bought it, or it came free, I can't remember, but it's great. And I kind of remembered when he was on many years ago, I kind of remembered that some of the tones that were in this app that we played that night on Coast to Coast were, and I just thought, I wonder, maybe one of them will be close to what I'm hearing. So I went back and I found it, still had it loaded in, and I found one, and it's pretty close. It's not exactly what I experienced, but you'll get an idea if I hit this button here and then I turn this up. You can hear, there you go. That's about what I hear 24/7, 365. That. It's kind of it's a slightly softer version of it. Even under the best care of traditional and non-traditional medical practitioners, my hearing is continuing to deteriorate and the tinnitus continues to get louder. This is not a good trade-off. So it is what it is. And I'm doing everything I can to try to curtail it. But because of the increasing severity of the hearing loss, the consensus among my GP and my ENT and my audiologist is that I have to be aggressive in how I handle this. So I am using, or I have tried, psychologists to increase my coping skills, massage therapists for the headaches, a hypnotist, didn't work, a pain specialist, sleep clinic. I'm going to be going in for acupuncture coming up. All options are being pursued. But sleep and these headaches are really what are becoming the issue. And like many of you, I'm sure there's a lot of insomniacs out there that listen to Coast. I function quite well on about half of the amount of sleep that others might need or get. I'm a short sleeper, is what they call that. I'm a short sleeper by nature. I am simultaneously a night owl and an early bird, something the Wall Street Journal referred to in an article as the sleepless elite. Whether this is entirely by nature or nurture, I couldn't tell you, but I do know that those few extra waking hours every day and the ability to turn the need for sleep on and off has made me a very productive man over the years and allowed me to be part of Coast to Coast AM since 1998, while I was also getting my master's degree, while I was doing a full-time radio job, while I was serving a church and writing books and being a regular part of the production of several TV shows, and then also being what I hope is an active, good father and a husband, and a free consultant to the world. But in the past, this has never been exhausting. It has become that, though, because of the constant ringing in the ears. And over the last 2 years, even my 4 to 5 hours of nightly sleep has just become elusive. I'm just not even getting that. There are treatment strategies and sound therapies that I should be doing more that might help me refocus my mind off of the tinnitus and reduce the stress related to the hearing loss, which is why for my overall health, I asked Coast to Coast to start searching for my weekly replacement a few months back. And kindly and graciously, Trevor Oliver and Lisa Lyon, who program and produce Coast to Coast, asked me to consider the once monthly Sunday night slot that Art Bell used to, and that fit.
So starting in January, you'll be hearing me only on the second Sunday of every month, kind of in the Coast to Coast host emeritus slot, as I continue to be more aggressive with these treatments. And I have a weekday morning radio job, too, a show I co-host with my wife, so that has to come first. But because of these circumstances, even my other radio family has accommodated my situation by creating a headphone-less studio so that I no longer have to have the direct audio onslaught into my ears. And that's helping, too. I hope I never have to leave radio completely, and that's what I'm fighting for.
So giving up Coast to Coast on a weekly basis is hard enough, but the time has come. Since starting with Coast back in 1998, when I was the first person other than Art Bell to have his name included in the title of the show after the Coast to Coast AM part. Coast to Coast AM with Ian Punnett went live on Sunday nights, and I was proud of that badging. I've loved being on this team as either a starter, a bench player, a fifth man, whatever was needed. When I left my weekly Sunday night post on Coast to Coast in December of 2001 in order to concentrate on finishing seminary, and then eventually to move to Minnesota, I was excited to see George Norrie take over, and he credits me with being a good luck charm for him for his future success on Coast to Coast, and I have never disagreed with him, and I never will. I will take complete credit for being a good luck charm. And because I had to say no to a weekly show in 2001, the world got to say yes to George Norrie, and has been saying yes to him ever since. So here it is exactly 10 years later, and I'm having to say no to a weekly show again, this time on Saturday, but that just means the world will say yes to John B. Wells, who takes over the Saturday night show as of January. And I hope my departure will be as lucky to him as I was to George Norrie. He's a good guy. He has a great radio presence, and he deserves this big-time chance. I think it's totally awesome. So while it's bad news for me that I have to reduce my presence on Coast to just a dozen or so appearances a year, it's good news for you that you'll have a fresh, exciting new weekly host, and that's always a good thing for the life of a show like Coast to Coast. And while it's bad news that this ringing in my ears never goes away, there is still more good news in it for me. At least I have really superb health insurance, and I'm grateful for that. I work for good, understanding people, and I'm living in a time when tinnitus treatment is getting even more attention because of the return of hundreds of thousands of servicemen and women who are also struggling with it after doing a hitch in Iraq or Afghanistan. And the difference between me and my many sisters and brothers of the buzz is that their tinnitus, their sleep disorders, their life disruption not only comes with the sound, but also, in many cases, memories they might prefer to forget. One soldier I heard speak once said that the hardest thing about his tinnitus is that not only was it brought on by an explosion under his Humvee in which he was riding, but that the sound always brings back the images of what happens to his buddies afterward. And I never have to deal with that. Makes me sad. Because of the volume of tinnitus sufferers, if you will, volume, get it? They're all at every VA, in every VA waiting room. Maybe someday better treatments, maybe someday a cure could be found for tinnitus. And the bad news for so many of our troops might bring about good news for all of us, maybe someday. In the meantime, I have a bunch of shows coming up this month. I'm also having a pretty good time playing around on Twitter. I send stories, photos, observations, and laughs on a daily basis at Deacon Punnett, D-E-A-C-O-N, Deacon Punnett, and I try to tweet back to everybody who writes. So while I anticipate all the warm and wonderful expressions of concerns that many of my tweets might want to share, it is my request that from this point forward, if you would, I'd rather not spend any time talking about it. One of the main strategies of tinnitus treatment is to not focus on it. So while I appreciate good old-fashioned human words of kindness and concern, either in phone calls or tweets, let's just not talk about it. That having been said, on the phone, email, street, at book signings, or at Deacon Punnett on Twitter, it'll be good to hear from you. In fact, I think it's fair to say it will be good to hear anything while I can. So, thank you so much, Lauren, for your patience. And Lauren Weinstein, who is one of my favorite guests here on Coast to Coast, mostly because he has great patience as I always sort through his name every time he comes on. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Ian. Hi. How are you doing this evening beyond the obvious here?
I couldn't be doing better. You know, it's so interesting to hear about this subject, and immediately I thought of you. And of course, people most frequently think of you when we talk about privacy concerns in the work that you've always done online, and with other things related to the government. I've never heard you speak about this GPS story of whether it's the DEA or the FBI putting GPS tracking devices underneath people's cars without a warrant.